Hey guys, Jerry Berg, and I'm back for the second video today. Why am I doing two videos today? Because I'm so bored. The baby is sick today, so I had to stay home from work, and the Nintendo Wii just can't hold my attention as much as it could 5 years ago. So I'm doing two videos, and today I want to do one that has a fun story for me, and is also a pretty freaking cool sword. And that one is... this one, straight out of the forges of Mordor in Lord of the Rings. Ha, just kidding, no. This sword, believe it or not, is actually based on one from history. So the story of that is, if you look up one particular illuminated manuscript, it's called the Maciejowski Bible, also known as the Morgan Bible, also known as the Crusader Bible. It is just full of some sick and disgusting images, full of nasty looking weapons. One of them looks very similar to this. Now this is a there's so much debate about this weapon, so it leads for some very fun stories. The first bit of debate is, one, did this sword actually exist? The reason being because there is pretty much only one example of these from a primary source, and that would be the Morgan Bible. There may be hints to it here and there. I think there's just a couple other images that aren't from that Bible, but it was created for royalty. Did the people who create it kind of use a little bit of fantasy to make it? It's depicting images from, at that point, 1200 years in the past, so were they just kind of guessing as to what swords looked like? Who knows? It's a freaking cool weapon. So that Bible was created in the middle of the 1200s, and so that would be about from when this weapon came from. The other bit of debate is how to actually identify, how to label this sword. What's the nomenclature for it? So people have suggested that this is a falchion. Other people have suggested that this is a messer. The most common name for it would be the Maciejowski chopper. Because it is very, I mean, it's look at this, it's like an axe with a blade down it. It's heavy at the tip, has this nasty looking little bite up here. So one other fascinating thing about, before I get into my story with it, one other fascinating bit from the examples of this in the Maciejowski Bible is that the only soldiers who are wielding these are those who would arguably be lower class, peasants, or just the soldiers who went on the crusade or went out to war, who were not nobility, who were not knights. They didn't have the full helms, they only had the little pot helms. And they're always on foot. It's not a horseback weapon, and it's just a fascinating thing, and that actually leads to one of the examples of it being a messer, the other one being that the Tang, and this recreation does a good job of it as well, the Tang goes through the handle like that. So, whatever the nomenclature is, the Maciejowski chopper is very fascinating, very cool, arguably a low-class weapon. The blade, yes, the blade is on this side. You could argue that there's a false edge here. So it is wielded like that. In fact, there's actually a video game, Lord of the Rings Conquest, and they use this sword as an orc weapon, so that just shows how sick of a weapon this actually looks, that they'd use an orc to wield it. So my story with this harkens back to before I even created the Corvus Cohort reenacting group. I was debating with myself, do I really want the responsibility of running another reenacting group? Can I just finally relax and just enjoy reenacting as just a reenactor and not worry about the administrative? Obviously, I couldn't escape from that, but I did consider joining a Crusader group here in Michigan, the Noble Company and Order of St. Maurice. Shout out to those guys, very cool. So this was going to be part of my Crusader outfit, being a low-class soldier. Obviously that didn't go through. Still a cool weapon. I got this one from Edge Imports. It's a sword weapon, and I'll post a link to this in the notes as well. It's a sword website, I'm sorry, that basically sells swords, but my first encounter with this one was under the category fantasy swords, understandably. So I didn't take a second guess at it, didn't really care about it, take a second glance at it. Thought maybe, what video game was this from? And then when I got actually into the research of the Crusader era, when I was considering joining the group, I was like, oh my gosh, I've seen that! That would be so cool! So I went back and I found it, and total, including shipping, this sword was $33. Very affordable. However, it does come with a few negatives. One, if I can't remember if I scratched it off yet or not, but it did have "Made in Pakistan" on the edge somewhere. It looks like I already scraped it off, can't remember where. You really want to scratch those off. Don't want to show off where it was made if it's not made from a reputable place. And this, it doesn't have that kind of high quality feel to it. You can kind of see it wiggles, not in a good way, it wiggles in a bad way. It's very loose. No, you can't really see it, but I guess you'd call it a cross guard if it even can get labeled that way. It isn't fully attached to the wood here. When I wiggled it like I did before, it kind of separates. Whatever, I'm not going to be actually attacking things with this weapon. It's mostly a discussion demonstration piece. It's also very shiny, more shiny than I would want it to be. It looks like stainless steel, as opposed to, you know, the more non-stainless steel you'd see at the time. Again, doesn't matter. I'm sure if I put some oil on it, scratched it up, it would get rid of that gleam. I wouldn't intentionally scratch it. I want to point that out, and then scour it. So that's basically the outline of this weapon. Oh, I did want to say it does come with one more thing. Let me grab it. It came with a scabbard. This crappy POS right here. Look, it even has snaps on it. This is not something you would want to even consider bringing to a reenactment. At least not into the eyes of the public or your fellow reenactors who might tear you a new one when you show them this. No. This is kept in private to keep this safe. It has the stupid little belt loop, implying it's just held vertically on your belt. No. The snaps are a no, and in fact I would argue that the shape of this sword would indicate it didn't have a scabbard at all. None of the guys who wield it in the Maciejowski Bible are depicted with a scabbard. This is probably something they just tossed together. Very low quality. I'm sure there's leather in here somewhere, true leather, but it's already coming apart. It's got cardboard on the inside. Ugh. I mean, props to them for actually giving a scabbard for a sword of, you know, 33 bucks, but don't wear it, you guys, if you're ever going to a reenactment with it. Does have these fullers. Obviously didn't really do much because it's such a wiggly and loose weapon. It did come to me sharp, so I had to dull it. This point in particular is going to always be sharp. It came with a little plastic cover for it. Good on them for including that. Honestly, very cool weapon. I recommend getting it for your collection. I recommend getting it to show off if you're from the Crusader era, because the high quality replicas of this are so freaking expensive. They look awesome, but they're so expensive, so I'd avoid that. I want to do a close-up on the handle here. Brass, the rivets are brass. You can see the Tang goes all the way through the handle. Not sure what the wood is. I don't want to say it's a hardwood or a softwood. It's definitely stained of some way or another. Doesn't really matter. Again, demonstration, conversation piece, not for actual use, though I'm sure it would cut through something. It's a piece of metal on a handle. But that's what I use it for talking. That's it. That's all I've got for you. Guess I'm going to go back to my boredom and my video games. See you guys next week.